The public domain is a gigantic area that contains music, literature, books, all kinds of stuff that's free for everyone to use. We use the public domain a lot. Anything that Bach wrote is public domain. And it's happened frequently. Someone would take music of Bach and add new instruments, sometimes add words when words weren't there. And that's all fine to do. That's legal. That's the public domain. That's what it's for. We can use it as inspiration. We can take portions of it and change it. And again, often it's lyrics. That is important to how a lot of works are created. It can lead to interesting issues, though. What if two people were to take the same public domain song and add different words? Well, if the melody stays the same, then there's no issue. You can't say that songwriter B, who wrote after songwriter A, that B copied A because it's the same melody, because A copied from Bach or Beethoven. It's public domain. There have been many examples of that happening. Paul Simon has a famous song called An American Tune. He took what he had heard from other people that usually goes back to Johann Sebastian Bach and to his St. Matthew Passion. This one chorale melody he has in that song is beautiful. But Bach himself took it from Hans Leo Hassler, so it goes back even deeper into the public domain. Paul Simon set this beautiful melody with his own words. Peter, Paul, and Mary, working with Dave Brubeck, said it before Paul Simon. Paul Simon made a lot more money on it, but if you listen to the two songs, you can see how close they are melodically. But that's not an issue because it's in the public domain. Sometimes public domain melodies and music can be used in television commercials. And I was involved in one where a songwriter had taken a Bach minuet in G, da 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 da, and he put it into 4/4 instead of 3/4, da 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 da, and added different chords to it and added words. And he had a big hit. It was called Lover's Concerto. Foolish title, so-so song, but it made a lot of money. What happened was Publix wanted to take the Bach minuet, da 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 da, and they want to set that musically and do 6 or 8 versions of it, saying one was focused on the deli section or the meat section or the bakery section. And they had different versions of Bach, but the guy who adapted Bach said, no, you've taken from me. And the issue got really strange, is to say, well, which of these, when Publix took it, are they copying from Bach or are they copying from the guy in the 60s? And it ends up you had to kind of split the differences and say, well, if he added a 4th beat, would he own 1 beat per measure? And some absurd ideas like that. But it did involve a lot of litigation, a lot of mess over adapting. He was okay to adapt from Bach, but Publix was not okay to adapt from him unless Publix was adapting from Bach. It was a real complicated mess. The way public domain happens, as I mentioned, is if it's pre-1923, but there are also some interesting things that have happened in the 20th century, and that is under the old copyright law, copyright term was different. It used to be 28 years initially, that was called the copyright term, and in the 28th year, a songwriter would have to renew the copyright. And then you could get an extra 56 years. If you did not renew your copyright in the 28th year, it went to the public domain. So suddenly this song you've written or the book you've written or whatever, it's no longer yours. It's gone. It's in the public domain because you did not renew the copyright registration. Under the old law, you had to register copyrights to get a copyright. It had to be registered or published. And now, under the law we live in, that's 1978 law on, it's automatic. That's resulted in some interesting things. And it's also had some people look at some works that are under copyright that maybe shouldn't be under copyright. And there's a famous example that recently lawyers decided that Happy Birthday, the famous Happy Birthday song, should not be owned by Warner Chappell. It shouldn't be under their copyright. Most people didn't understand the history of it or didn't want to delve that far into it. It was written in 1891, and it was a song written by 2 teachers for their students. It was good morning to you, good morning to you, good morning dear children, and that was what it was. It was written in 1891 or 1892, but it wasn't registered in the Copyright Office till 1935, and then it was with the words happy birthday, but there's a lot of confusion as to what took place in between. It ends up, it's a complicated story, but a company owned it, and then Warner Chappell owned it. They bought the company, or bought the publishing. Then they were starting to issue licenses, and a lot of people would avoid singing happy birthday in public because Warner Chappell could demand so much money, and people would come up with other versions. So what the lawyers did was to sue on behalf of a plaintiff who was trying to do a documentary about the song Happy Birthday. She used to work for MTV, and she did a series of videos, a show MTV had, it led to, on extravagant birthdays, the Sweet 16 birthdays that were crazy. And she wondered, well, what's the history of the song? So after all that took place, she ended up suing with these lawyers, and they won. And Happy Birthday is now public domain. So these same attorneys I'm working with now, and we thought that We Shall Overcome had a long history, and that should not be owned, that we should try to free it from copyright. And we proceeded to. And we had to look at how did this song come about? And even the owners of We Shall Overcome said, it's in the public domain, but we added original expression. Therefore, we own it. Okay? Because remember I said that if you can take the public domain and you will own what you add to it. But if you looked at it closely like we did, it ends up the melody and the music is from the 1780s. Even Beethoven set it to music in 1815 or so. And many other people did. And also it acquired new words, and it just kept changing. It was handled by many people over many years. And what finally happened was that their claim they changed it from we will overcome to we shall overcome. And deep in my heart became down in my heart. And they thought that by making those two simple changes, that they should own the whole thing. And the courts disagreed and agreed with us. And now, not only is Happy Birthday in the public domain and free for anyone to use, but so isn't We Shall Overcome. So with respect to Happy Birthday and We Shall Overcome, both of those songs that had been under copyright are now free for everyone to use, and they are in the public domain. So when it comes to the public domain, it's extremely important to know with the music, words, whatever the expression you're dealing with, is it under copyright or is it not? So it's copyrighted or it's public domain. There have been examples where someone thought a song was in the public domain and they used it in another composition only to be sued and to find out that was not public domain, it's owned by copyright. And sometimes at Christmas you hear Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and you hear all these songs that have been, people have sung for years, but Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, for example, is under copyright. This happens plenty. And so it's very important to know the importance of the public domain. It's material you can freely use, but also to really make sure that the work is in the public domain and not under copyright.